he might just be the absolute best at enjoying a vacation when it comes to ace bodyguards. As a top-tier bodyguard, he suffers a massive psychological blow because a client was unalived, prompting him to temporarily say goodbye to his bodyguarding career. With his body and mind deeply traumatized, he follows his therapist's advice and goes to a picturesque Italian island for a vacation. This man named Michael lies on a lounge chair in a devout yet pretentious manner, listening to music while reading a book. He genuinely believes he can finally enjoy a leisurely life free from a hailstorm of bullets. Consequently, the very next second, his eardrums are on the verge of being blasted death. For no apparent reason, Michael is dragged into a ferocious firefight by a random woman. He does not recognize this fierce, badass woman at all. As a result of the woman's rapid self-introduction, he finally learns that this lady is Sonia, the wife of Kincaid, the top hitman who nearly drives him to a mental breakdown. Kincaid is captured by the Italian mafia, and he specifically instructs her to track down Michael for assistance. Without giving him any say in the matter, she forces Michael onto a small scooter. Sonia has to multitask by gunning down bad guys while driving the scooter, leaving a miserable Michael with no choice but to take control of the handlebars. They are chased all the way to the edge of a cliff, and the scooter violently flips over. The enemies form a tight perimeter, spraying bullets at them relentlessly. Michael runs to the very edge of the cliff, only to realize it is a total dead end. Just as he wants to look around for a safer alternative route, Sonia already leaps right off the edge. Michael has absolutely no choice but to dive right in after her. They manage to surface from the water with great difficulty and make their escape. Amid Sonia's endless, non-stop nagging, Michael pieces together a rough understanding of what exactly goes down. Kincaid and his wife decide to come to Italy for a honeymoon solely to conceive a little baby. Just as Sonia puts on a sexy maid outfit and gets ready to fight a hard battle in bed, she suddenly discovers Kincaid has vanished into thin air. This absolute clown actually sneaks out during their honeymoon to take on another contract gig, only to end up getting himself captured. Sonia, who is getting a bit up there in age, is desperate to have a child. Subsequently, she starts rambling to Michael about all the various methods they try to get pregnant, completely oblivious to whatever environment they are in. They eventually arrive at a dockyard district, which happens to be the place where Kincaid is locked up inside a building. Sonia grabs a submachine gun, wanting to breach straight through the front door, and Michael cannot even hold her back. Seeing that Sonia is deliberately flaunting her sultry figure to draw close to the main gate, Michael, acting as a AAA bodyguard, has no choice but to dive onto a cargo truck and roll his way into the compound. Refraining from taking a life is the golden rule of the bodyguard industry. Therefore, Michael unlocks the main gate, intending to let Sonia slide inside safely. But he never could have imagined that Sonia already furiously unalives over a dozen guys using nothing but a dagger. A slightly hot-tempered Sonia screams and charges forward as the vanguard, blasting her way into the warehouse with a submachine gun. Michael follows dumbfoundedly behind her like a clueless sidekick. Meanwhile, Kincaid, who is tied up inside an office, seizes the opportunity to make his move as well. This shock-inducing, unconventional couple finally reunites once again. Spotting Michael appearing right in front of his eyes, Kincaid is completely scratch-heading and bewildered. He has no clue why this idiot is showing up here, and he absolutely refuses to admit that he told his wife to summon this guy. Michael gets a little ticked off, considering he loses count of how many times he saves this man's life, yet the guy displays zero gratitude. Seeing a half-dead henchman trying to stand back up, Michael pulls out his pocket pepper spray and blasts him right in the face. Michael feels absolutely terrible, to the point where he is ready to puke. From this exact moment on, his miserable, depressing, and bizarre vacation journey officially kicks off. Just as he rushes out intending to give this crazy couple a piece of his mind, a car suddenly screeches to a halt behind them, and men dressed in black quickly bundle Kincaid and Sonia into the vehicle. And Michael does not escape the onslaught either, as he gets dropped instantly by someone wielding a stun baton. They are brought directly before Interpol agent Bobby. Upon seeing this bizarre combination, Bobby completely flies off the handle at them, accusing them of utterly ruining his grand plan. It turns out that just over a week ago, the European Union decides to impose further economic sanctions on Greece, causing an already volatile Greece to plunge into deeper chaos. Consequently, a multi-billionaire Greek tycoon named Aristotle decides to exact vengeance on the entirety of Europe. He purchases a highly potent cyber virus from the black market. This powerful virus is capable of destroying a data routing hub, taking down all electronic equipment within a dozen-kilometer radius and directly paralyzing half a city. Aristotle secures the potent virus, and he plans to launch a coordinated attack on all European data routing hubs in 4 days. And the Italian mob boss that Kincaid unalived happened to be Bobby's primary informant. The informant is on the verge of purchasing the coordinate data for the routing hubs for Aristotle, which is supposed to be Interpol's golden ticket to get close to the criminal mastermind, only for the opportunity to be completely obliterated by this trio. Therefore, Bobby decides to make Michael and his crew fill the shoes of his dead informant to complete the transaction. He hands over a briefcase stuffed to the brim with cash. Just like that, they form a makeshift squad and hit the road. Sonia, whose sole focus is enjoying her honeymoon and making a baby, is absolutely infuriated about being forced into a random job out of nowhere. To appease his angry wife, Kincaid places a call to book 2 tickets for the opera Carmen. Consequently, Sonia, who is applying makeup inside the car, spots Kincaid on the phone and assumes he is trying to sneakily pick up another side contract. She slams her foot on the gas pedal and charges right forward, and the poor soul who gets run over is none other than the perpetual punching bag, Michael. To make his wife even happier, they begin spending the cash inside the briefcase like absolute water, acting as if they are on a real honeymoon. Getting swept up in the mood, they just randomly pull over under a large bridge to get intimate. Meanwhile, Michael is locked inside the trunk like a piece of luggage, and they only let him out after they finish their business. Bickering and fooling around all the way, they eventually arrive at the famous Italian harbor town of Portofino. The transaction spot is located right here. It is finally time to get down to actual business. Sonia poses as the deceased mob boss's wife, bringing her bodyguard Michael into the bar to conduct the trade, while Kincaid waits outside to provide backup. Once that mob boss confirms the money is correct, he hands over the case containing the data hub location chip to Sonia. However, just to be safe, these thugs pull out a bracelet rigged with explosives and lock it around Sonia's wrist. The moment the case strays more than 5 meters away from the bracelet for over 15 seconds, a catastrophic explosion triggers. Only Aristotle's biometric fingerprint can unlock this device. None of them anticipate that the opposition will pull a stunt like this. The transaction is successfully completed. Sonia and Michael are supposed to grab the case and walk away, but out of nowhere, the woman standing beside the opposing boss mocks Sonia for looking a bit old in her wig. The moment Michael hears these words, his face turns completely pale. He knows a disaster of epic proportions is brewing, and sure enough, Sonia hears the insulting mockery loud and clear. Looking at this group of men laughing hysterically at her expense, she reaches her absolute breaking point. Seeing the enemies reaching for their weapons, Kincaid provides long-range support and pops ahead from afar. Sonia brutally pummels the young woman who mocked her, while Michael acts as a support system right beside her. They execute flawless teamwork, knocking down a bunch of punks while constantly keeping tabs on the distance of the case. But just as Michael and Sonia prepare to fall back, a low-level thug charges out wielding a shotgun. Michael instinctively shoves Sonia out of harm's way, and as a result, gets blasted by the gunfire himself. Before the police swarm the building, Sonia hauls Michael out of the scene. She dumps Michael onto a speedboat like a sack of garbage, and she flees the area with Kincaid in a flash. Sonia notices that no matter how much she slaps Michael, he refuses to wake up. Left with no alternative, Kincaid delivers a few insincere eulogies, and the couple simply chucks Michael into the ocean to call it a day. Michael is ready to lose his mind, considering that as a top-tier bodyguard, he wears a bulletproof vest at all times, meaning he is merely knocked unconscious, not dead. Because they flee with the highly critical data, the television networks are now broadcasting Interpol's wanted notices for them on a continuous loop. They must find a way to resolve this entire mess once and for all. They arrive at a rooftop opposite a luxury hotel to reconnoiter the situation. Today happens to be the day Aristotle checks into this specific hotel. Because he takes a round to the gut, Michael's lower abdomen is still throbbing with pain. A well-meaning Sonia takes note of this, so she pulls out one of her regular pain relief pills and gives it to him. While they are still observing, Kincaid suddenly notices a sniper in the opposite hotel aiming a rifle straight at them. They quickly turn around and make a break for it. It turns out Aristotle's henchmen spot their location. Michael takes the lead, braving a hailstorm of bullets to jump into a van. Just as he calls for Kincaid and his wife to hop in, his head slumps onto the steering wheel without warning, passing out cold. It turns out the pill Sonia gives him isn't a painkiller at all, but rather lithium tablets used to treat her manic episodes, which induce extreme drowsiness. Kincaid's face goes completely blank with frustration, leaving him with no choice but to take the wheel himself to evade the assassins. Kincaid swerves the vehicle left and right, successfully taking down several pursuing cars. But before the couple can celebrate their victory, a helicopter arrives on the scene. The assassin aboard the aircraft wields a grenade launcher, unleashing a ruthless and heavy bombardment on the Mercedes camper van driving on the bridge. And the assassin even goes as far as directly blowing up an oncoming fuel tanker, blasting apart a massive section of the bridge. Right while the assassin on the helicopter is reloading his grenade launcher, Kincaid pops out and fires several consecutive shots at the chopper, ultimately taking out the pilot. The chassis of the Mercedes camper takes a direct hit from a shell, but it manages to make a safe getaway in the end. Sonia wakes Michael up by cradling him as if he were her own son. Having been dead to the world for a long time, Michael is completely clueless about what he has missed out on. Because Kincaid inadvertently drives the vehicle into Tuscany in central Italy, Michael has no choice but to bring them to seek help from a resident living in this area. He leads Kincaid and Sonia into a luxurious estate, and this place happens to be his old man's house. Senior is also a veteran ace bodyguard, which is why Michael, who has lost his professional license, has always been too ashamed to return home. But the moment Kincaid catches sight of Senior's face, he is so startled that he drops his glass. Under Michael's explanation, he finally learns that Michael's dad is actually his stepfather. Senior warmly entertains Michael's friends, and they share a meal together in complete harmony. Upon learning that Michael lost his license, the gentle and understanding old man doesn't blame him at all, but instead tosses him a set of car keys. He gifts his own luxury sports car to his son just to cheer him up. Michael takes the Kincaid couple up to the mountaintop to take in the scenery, finally cracking a smile as his depressed mood seems to take a turn for the better. And during this joyful moment, Kincaid also has a long hidden secret that he wants to confess to Sonia. But out of nowhere, a tranquilizer dart shoots right into his neck. And Michael does not escape the onslaught either, as the miserable soul gets peppered with countless tranquilizer darts, finally passing out looking like a human porcupine. They are transported to a secluded island. This marks the second time they have their hoods violently ripped off, and the ones kidnapping them this time around are none other than Aristotle's henchmen. They also finally come face to face with the big boss himself. But to everyone's surprise, it seems this is not the first time Aristotle and Sonia have ever crossed paths. They call out each other's names the instant they lock eyes. It turns out they used to share a romantic past together. However, through a cruel twist of fate, the heel of Sonia's high shoe snapped, causing her to lose her footing and plunge from a yacht into the ocean, resulting in total amnesia ever since. Consequently, they were separated across the world and lost all contact, never expecting to cross paths again on this very day. Kincaid never expects such a mind-boggling, chaotic twist to unfold. He and Michael are thrown into a dungeon to remain in custody, while Sonia has her handcuffs and explosive bracelet unlocked by Aristotle. Aristotle guides Sonia into a room located on the second floor. Sonia widens her eyes in absolute disbelief, seeing that this happens to be a nursery room. This is a room Aristotle personally decorated, specially prepared for Sonia. While their old flame is reignited and things get all lovey-dovey, Sonia has no clue that her husband is currently on the verge of being electrocuted into a human prune down in the basement. Fortunately, Michael intentionally acts a fool to draw one of the guards away, which allows Kincaid to take out the guard who is electrocuting him. Michael and Kincaid blast their way out of the basement. After running out of the house, Kincaid is still thinking about his wife, Sonia. He screams Sonia's name at the top of his lungs, wanting her to make a break for it with him. But to his dismay, Sonia stands coldly on the second floor, looking down upon Kincaid. She has already lost all interest in Kincaid, with her entire mind now focused solely on Aristotle. Kincaid is completely heartbroken, never expecting his wife to be so utterly ruthless. He gets forcefully dragged onto a speedboat by Michael, making a pathetic escape from this island that completely broke his heart. Once back on solid ground, Kincaid confides a secret to Michael. In reality, it is physically impossible for him to get Sonia pregnant, because one of his family jewels was blown to pieces during a past mission. Therefore, he now forcefully convinces himself that perhaps with Sonia leaving him, she stands a real chance at having her own child and finding greater happiness than she has now. That is just how humans operate, always resorting to self-deception and self-consolation to evade the agony brought by reality. Michael is completely powerless to help. He returns to his stepfather's estate. Just as he gets ready to knock on the door, he suddenly notices that exact red luxury sports car parked inside the courtyard. Michael finds it incredibly bizarre, wondering how on earth this car returned, given that the three of them were tranquilized and hauled away. And Senior delivers a brutal, completely unacceptable answer to him. It turns out Senior serves as Aristotle's chief bodyguard consultant during his stay in Italy, and he was the exact mole who tipped off the enemy to capture them. It turns out he was merely playing the good guy in front of Michael the entire time. He looks down on this stepson completely, since they share no blood relation, wishing nothing more than for this kid to drop dead out in the wild. Left completely locked out in the cold, Michael's heart is shattered into a million pieces. With his love curdling into pure hatred, laying eyes on the sports car at this moment evokes an entirely different sensation. He personally torches the sports car to ashes. He will never set foot in this place ever again. The two heartbroken men cross paths and reunite once again inside a noisy pub. One is betrayed by the father he looked up to, while the other is betrayed by the wife he cherished deeply. Right while the two depressed men are drowning their sorrows in booze, an incoming call rings inside the pub. The pub owner answers the line, and to his surprise, the call is looking for Kincaid. It turns out Sonia places this call in total secrecy. Her icy demeanor back on the island was actually nothing but pure acting. Aristotle was standing right behind her at that moment, meaning putting on a show was the only way to ensure Kincaid and Michael could successfully bust out. And Sonia actually learned long ago that Kincaid is incapable of fathering a child. Her affection for him is genuine love, meaning whether they have a kid or not matters absolutely zero. And Kincaid suggests that they can actually adopt a little baby together. This brilliant idea instantly sends Sonia into a frenzy of excitement because she has had an adoption target in mind for ages. Just as the couple is passionately chatting away over the line, a squad of hitmen suddenly materializes outside the pub, spraying the building with gunfire. Meanwhile, Aristotle also corners Sonia right to her face, alongside his armed henchmen. It turns out he saw right through Sonia's little acting performance long ago as well. Over on the other side, Michael and Kincaid sprint out of the pub, dropping the pursuing enemies before hijacking their ride and tearing off. Kincaid never expects that Michael, after being backstabbed by his own flesh and blood, would suddenly cut loose completely, ditching his overly cautious, timid demeanor to drive like a total maniac, which scares Kincaid into secretly buckling his seatbelt. Furthermore, Michael steers the vehicle to charge straight toward an enemy wielding a rocket launcher. Kincaid feels like this absolute lunatic is looking for a death wish. Consequently, due to a momentary lapse of attention, Michael slams right into a concrete pillar, launching himself clean out of the vehicle. After making it through this wild night, Kincaid and Michael resolve to regain their swagger. They gear up with weapons and ammunition, intending to go break Sonia out. Meanwhile, at this exact moment, Sonia is escorted onto a luxury yacht by Aristotle. Down in the Viareggio Trench, a colossal super drill is lowered directly from his vessel. Having secured the coordinate data, he knows full well that the entire data routing infrastructure for Europe lies hidden within this trench. As long as they hack this routing hub, they can completely subjugate all of Europe to atone for Greece's suffering. Before long, the thugs aboard the yacht spot a tiny boat drifting toward the stern, though no one appears on deck. Several armed goons slowly creep closer with their weapons raised. Michael and Kincaid have already infiltrated the yacht, splitting up to track down Sonia's whereabouts. The moment Michael steps into a cabin, he bumps right into the chief bodyguard, Magnuson. Magnuson happens to be the reigning golden boy of the bodyguarding world for years, and he effortlessly dismantles Michael's handgun into tiny loose pieces. Michael possesses a peculiar trait where the more critical the situation gets, the more prone he is to making a total fool of himself. He engages in a brutal hand-to-hand brawl with Magnuson. Meanwhile, in another room, the hitman Kincaid runs into his own arch-rival, the top-tier assassin from Japan, Zento. The two engage in a frantic shootout within the cramped space, locked in a fierce, deadlocked struggle for a time. Ultimately, Kincaid relies on audio cues to pin down the man's exact location, firing a round off a bronze statue's backside to ricochet the bullet and take out Zento. Over on the other side, Michael manages to turn the tables after blasting Magnuson with pepper spray, grabbing the guy's head and jamming it viciously straight into a jukebox. And right around this time, the super drill breaches straight into the routing hub enclosure. Aristotle immediately begins uploading the malicious virus. 6 minutes later, the virus will execute, allowing all of Europe to be completely wiped out. Right while he is gloating triumphantly, the elevator doors slide open behind him, revealing Zento's lifeless body inside. It appears the high-priced elite muscle he hired completely failed to hold back Kincaid and Michael. Consequently, Aristotle pulls out a heavy machine gun, deciding to step into the fray personally to eliminate these annoying intruders. The moment he steps out of the elevator, he opens fire with reckless abandon, forcing Kincaid to scramble for cover, and a stray bullet catches Kincaid right in his thigh. Witnessing Aristotle's weapon pressed against Kincaid's skull, Michael stands behind him with his own gun drawn. But right when he fires, a figure suddenly leaps out to take the bullet for Aristotle. Michael rushes over and flips the man over, only to find it is his completely untrustworthy stepfather. However, Senior is not finished yet, as his eyes snap open and he delivers a swift kick that sends Michael plunging down into the lower deck. Meanwhile, Kincaid engages in a life-or-death struggle against Aristotle. But to his surprise, Aristotle possesses freakish strength, tossing Kincaid around like a rag doll. Both pull their handguns simultaneously, aiming dead at each other. Yet, at the exact same moment, a third weapon is trained on them. It turns out Sonia makes her grand entrance. She has just finished off the female bodyguard guarding her inside the control room. Sonia fires a round that completely obliterates Aristotle's palm. With that, the dynamic duo is finally reunited. They subsequently train their barrels entirely on Aristotle. At this juncture, only 2 final minutes remain before the virus triggers. Michael is locked in combat against Senior as well. Senior assumes he has the game completely in the bag, never expecting Michael to secretly drive a Swiss Army knife right into his neck. Yet, before drawing his final breath, he leaves Michael with a brutal dilemma, explaining that the virus upload is almost complete, meaning pulling out the flash drive will instantly detonate the ship, but leaving it will ruin all of Europe. Save Europe or save himself? Meanwhile, the couple who are just gearing up for a kiss get rudely interrupted. A catastrophic explosion rips through the yacht immediately after, though fortunately, they dive overboard just in time to survive the blast. Because they successfully neutralized the European Union crisis, Bobby stops giving the trio a hard time. He even accommodates Sonia's request, prompting Michael to sign a random piece of paperwork. A clueless Michael has absolutely zero clue what kind of document he is signing. He watches as Sonia cradles the paperwork like a prized possession. Under Sonia's explanation, he and Kincaid finally learn that he just signed an adoption agreement, officially making him Sonia and Kincaid's precious, adopted baby boy. This movie is pure popcorn entertainment, featuring explosive car chases, hard-hitting action, hilarious dialogue, endearing characters, and gorgeous scenery. It is absolutely perfect for blowing off some steam. If you are a fan of these kinds of movies, definitely give the original film a watch. See you in the next video.